about that, I'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Ricky Hooker. I'm the COO of Expandly. We grow businesses internationally. And to differentiate between the last talk and this one, there's a difference between selling internationally and international expansion. So we deal with a more structured, infrastructure-based expansion. And we grow through a software portal that gives compliance for products and taxes, and then behind that, warehouse infrastructure and shipping to be able to fulfill directly from the places that you're selling it.
Amazing, yes.
Hey everybody, happy Thursday. Some pretty strong glasses on your picture, actually. Oh, that's yours? Bloody hell. But I'm Yasmin, marketing director at Ruggable. We invented the machine washable rug, and I'm responsible for our European business.
I have a rug in my front hall that my dog makes a mess of, so the rugs are brilliant, by the way. Sorry, there we go. Nick from Steakstones. We are a pretty niche product, but we manufacture hot stone cooking products. So if you've ever had steak on the stone or your dinner live at the table cooked in front of you, that's what we do. So we sell to restaurants, quite a few all around London, quite a few all around the world, and then we follow that up with consumer sales.
Whoa. Going to jump straight in. Nick, what has 2 decades of international trade taught you about resilience?
Wow, I was thinking about that as I sat there. And resilience for me, I mean, everyone in this room, congratulations first of all, because you're doing your own thing with your own brands, and that's the key, is having that resilience. I actually got a job just up the road here just after I launched my business on Dragon's Den 20 years ago. So my first show was the Ideal Home Show. It was a 28-day long show. I did every single day while I was doing interviews to get a job up here because I knew my business wasn't making enough money to do it outright. So internationally, resilience carries on from there. I mean, just today we had a very successful Christmas, and success breeds its own problems. We ran out of stock on a lot of key SKUs. Chinese New Year came in, always at the wrong time, because you've just trying to get some orders through, and that comes into play. So we've rushed through. We have great relationships with our suppliers, but we have stock that's ready now, and suddenly shipping is taking another 15, 20, 30 days. We just got quotes in for air freighting goods this morning, and what would normally be around 1,500 a pallet is now up to over 3,000 a pallet just this morning because of what's going on in the world. So resilience is wearing a flak jacket and not crying when you get that email through this morning. But yeah, we'll just crack on. We'll find a slightly different way. We'll do things better through some better partnerships, and we keep trying.
I love how Yas was like, happy Thursday. Yes, you led the expansion into Europe. What was the hardest part of expanding a US brand?
Yeah, great question. I think for me, it was kind of unlearning the US playbook. I feel like in the US you can have, I'm simplifying, but you can have one marketing strategy and you can like scale it nationally and it's going to work. And in Europe it really doesn't work that way. And I explained this to my mom the other day, who is very confused as to what I do and why I sell rugs online. But I was like, oh, it's like going to a restaurant with your friends. Like when I go to a restaurant with my friend, my British friend Sarah, she would like listen to the specials, and if they sound good, and if they're on offer, they're like, yeah, sure, I'll give that a go. And then my French friend, Oceane, and this is no joke, she would like scroll through Instagram and look at the dishes, and if they look like aesthetically pleasing, she would choose based on that. And I'm from Germany, this is where the weird accent is coming from, but I would read through the whole menu, and I would make sure that I would like read through the top highlighted reviews and stuff beforehand. So I think all to say like same restaurant, same menu, but very, very different ways of choosing. And that's what was the hard part with Ruggable, because I think trying to understand that consumer and trying to understand what works for each of those consumers, and then speaking to them in the right language. So value proposition, what channel mix you're using, what kind of localization to do first, was really, really hard and tricky. And it took us a bit of time to get right, and I think we're still trying to figure it out, to be honest.
Amazing. Ricky, so what is the biggest misconception brands have about international expansion?
Well, I think really the biggest thing that we find is that scaling internationally as a vertical is not, you're not taking your business the same. It's like building a new one internationally. It's the same vertical, but it's adjacent. I think the biggest misconception is what works here, as we just explained, what works here is going to work. And importantly, not understand knowing what you know, but not understanding the nuances of where you're going to be selling in the future.
It's not just copy and paste, is it, unfortunately? If it was that easy. Nick, so how does branding translate differently across global markets?
So I heard something the other day which I thought was sensible, and it was your brand will have the same voice, but it's got to speak in different accents in different locations. So again, I worked in an agency years ago and had a client just around the corner here who were a large financial institution from the US who rebranded as Genworth. But a big part of their market was Scandinavia, and in Scandinavia everyone kept saying, who is this Genworth? It sounds more like a sausage than a bank or an insurer. So, you've got to sanity check your brand wherever you're taking it. Visually, that might be different. It might be different colors, it might be different taglines, it might be even a different brand name. But it's very important in the early days, I guess, to make sure your brand and your products do translate to different markets.
And Ricky, back to you. So when brands expand internationally, what compliance mistake costs them the most money?
Preparation. It's all about being ready, tax compliance. If you're choosing to hold stock in another country, if you're choosing to trade in another country, rather than just shipping your existing stock holding that you might have in your domestic market. Product compliance when it comes to things like EPR or label compliance, digital passports, things like that. Preparation is the key. I think if you get too excited by the opportunity, an American business might be excited by 500 million Europeans that they could sell to, but not being prepared is the key thing. It's not necessarily super complex, but you do need to be prepared.
And Yas, back to you. So where did partnerships unlock growth in new markets?
Before I do this, so I was walking down the stairs, this is no joke, I was chatting to someone who was amazing, and I was like, oh God, it's going to be so hard after lunchtime, no one's going to listen, like everyone is like tired. So Molly's going to look at me in horror because she has no idea. But should we do a competition?
Okay.
Yes? Should we do a competition? Sorry.
I'm in.
Could you all raise you can win a Ruggable doormat, how about that, of your choice? So we can do something fun. But can everybody raise their hands to start with? Just to get a bit of action in. Oh, I love this. Oh, you're taking part. I love it.
Yeah,
okay, so keep your hands raised if you heard of Ruggable. And you have to be honest. Great. Keep your hands up if you know we do collaborations. Great. And now, if anybody knows anyone we collaborated with, and if they can shout it out, they win the doormat. I feel like you were first, so the doormat is yours. Oh my God!
So jamming.
No, but I think all to say, well, he has one, so we'll get you a good discount as well. But all to say, I think partnerships played such a big role in our growth, and the way I sometimes explain is I feel like it allows us to borrow credibility and trust from people who are way bigger than us. And I'm actually quite proud how we do partnerships at Ruggable, because we kind of diversified the usual partnership model. So influencers is obviously what everybody is doing, but that can sometimes be really expensive, especially if you're a smaller brand. Some of these influencers want $15K per post, which is ridiculous. But we started exploring curated collections, which is basically working with upcoming interior designers, and they were doing edits and stuff, which was a really nice way to actually give interior designers a voice and us to get a bit more awareness. And probably our most popular ones are Ruggable X. So we tend to partner with quite big brands where we borrow their design IP and create new design IP together to come up with brand new collections. We've just launched Liberty last week, which was really, really fun. We've done Ruggable Rixo back in November, and they're just so helpful in getting lots and lots of press, but also just reach brand new audience who trust you and who convert a lot better as well.
I'm excited to go and check them out after. Nick, how do you protect margins across territories?
That's a good question. I think we go back to what the guys were saying just now, that work out your costs. You've got to know every single cost on the way through. And I've probably been guilty, certainly over the past few years, of trying to manage everything to be identical. So in Europe, it's just times 1.3. In the US, it's just times 1.4. Whatever that is. I think the margins are more important to be relevant to what your business is actually costing. I think you can charge more. It depends on the market, But again, the strong brand, if you've got that, your customers will take a little bit of the hit on that. They would rather get the product delivered seamlessly without any duty problems, without any shipping problems, and just paying a little bit more. And that's something you can really shout about. Something that we're looking at. I feel like I'm actually playing kind of DTC bingo here. I'm working my way along. I've got the top line now with Global and Go Quick, doing some work with the Rev Lifter. a little bit with Brightpearl. So, I think that's the key thing, is finding the right partners to help you grow wherever you're trying to do that.
I'm going to start that as my own little game, DTC bingo. Ricky, so what framework helps brands expand without losing that operational control?
Well, aside from you're getting your tech stack in place, an expansion pathway which starts with a proper strategy rather than a plan. This is not talking about a business plan. We're talking about an expansion strategy. With inside Expandly, we've got our own AI Foundry. We've got our own tools that you can plug in your listings and get a really good indication of where should I be selling, what kind of marketplaces are going to work for me, to give you a head start on what that on what that strategy is going to look like. From there, you can make informed decisions on where shall I start, how am I going to resource this. The resource part's an enormous element of the operational part. We've spoken a lot about founder-led content, we've spoken a lot about authenticity and all those pieces. Imagine then replicating that into a new market, continuing with authentic content. Yeah, you can start by just translating things, but taking it onto a more sophisticated level, replicating that content abroad, for instance, all becomes part of that strategic plan. So I think research, compliance, delivery, marketplaces, and repeat, omni-channel in different countries, and actually, in terms of the readiness of a business, the resource element then becomes the most important, because you can't do all that work when you're busy doing your domestic market as well.
Again, it's that preparation, isn't it? Yes. Here at DTC Live, we love a quick win. What quick wins can brands focus on before deep localization?
I'm a consultant at heart, so I'm going to give you guys 3. But I think, first of all, payment methods across Europe, I think they're so fundamentally different, so getting them right is almost an instant unlock. In Germany, people love Klarna. No one uses credit cards. Here, everybody loves a credit card or Apple Pay. So just making sure you've got the right setup is really, really important. Secondly, and Carl, you were talking about this, I think being really clear on your shipping times, duties, return windows, etc., gives customers a lot of trust. So just by having them really visible, it automatically actually increased our conversion, which is crazy. And then I think last but not least, and this probably has gotten easier, but when we launched in France, we were very intentional with which we only localized the homepage and the top 5 converting pages up front and got that right and got the MVP out and then started doing other things. But I think these days with Expandly and other forms, you can do this a lot more efficiently, but back in the day, that was a really quick win.
Amazing. And going to do a little quick fire round to finish off. Starting with you, Ricky, so you actually have the best one. No one's going to take your answer. What is the fastest way to lose money in a new market?
Launching not compliant, so going to prison. That'll do it. That's really shit. Not missing tax compliance. But the fastest way to lose money, I would say, is not starting out properly in the first place.
Yeah, and don't end up in prison.
Prison's bad.
Yeah, very bad. Yes.
I think mine is similar, not the prison one, but I think scaling paid media before you've got your fundamentals right, it's the easiest way, I think, to just put a lot of money down the bin.
Can I have a different question? They've answered that one.
Told you this is the hardest one. I will give you another one. So I had a second group question, but just for you. What is the one metric that tells you international expansion is working?
I guess revenue, right? But I think to kind of summarize everything with this, I'm probably upset Ricky a bit if I said what I think, and that's just to get going, right? To start somewhere, figure it all out on the way. I think we've got a plan long term, know where you want to go, have a flight path, know which location you're trying to solve, but kind of just deal with it quickly. Fail fast, try it out. If it's not the right market, go somewhere else. And the world's a big place. It's always sunny somewhere. So whatever we're facing, there's always going to be a market that's right for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining me on the stage.
Thank you.